Dan and Chris, like, what is your advice to stakeholder groups, including what would your advice be for platform engineering IDP to executives, to platform engineering teams, and to DevOps teams? Chris, can I start with you?
Sure. If I was in a position where I'm either on a team or the leader where we need to produce a mission critical business application, the first thing I would do is I would think about what is my developer platform or portal going to look like? How can I enable my developers to build that application quickly? So I would have platform engineers on the team. They would make a decision about what IDP they're going to be creating, because that's just the foundation of delivering a modern app. So that's number one, is what's your IDP plan? Make sure you have a good one. And that's where it starts for me with those decision makers. And then I would say, as you go down that path and make decisions about your IDP, how can you make sure that it will work with your cloud provider? It will work with your Kubernetes. And as things change, your corporate mandate might be to move from Google to Amazon next year. How do you make sure that all of those automations and processes that you've put in place, or the IDP you've built, in other words, will work with the changes that you need to make for your cloud decisions? So, make sure you have a good IDP plan, make sure it's cloud agnostic, and maybe protect yourself from churn in your platform or development team. So those are the top decisions that we talk to executives about when building modern apps.
Got it. Thanks, Chris. Love it. Dan, from a platform engineering and DevOps perspective, what would be your advice to be to the technologists at an enterprise?
Don't pull your hair out. Not you, Steve, but if you're relatively new to this space, or you're looking to get involved, or you're part of a company that is looking for a solution, you'll quickly be overwhelmed with the amount of tools, with the amount of quote unquote influencers and experts on YouTube and LinkedIn telling you to go this way and go that way. So I would just encourage you to really focus on the GitOps philosophy, because if you take a GitOps approach, again, because it is truly a framework, and if you're trying to do a DevOps kind of solution, DevOps again is not a framework, it's a philosophy. Research GitOps and then take an opinionated approach about how you would do it. We did that, and we selected Argo CD to use that architecturally as an architectural cornerstone of our solution, because we just felt it was the best project out there for a GitOps approach to both applications and infrastructure. So learn about GitOps, make an opinionated opinion about it. And one resource I would recommend is a book by Maurizio Salatino. It's called Platform Engineering in Kubernetes. Chris and I have met with him. He's a great guy, and his book takes a good approach for a basic fundamental GitOps driven platform. And in his book, you'll learn a little bit about the disciplines we talked about today. He even has a way for you to kind of create like a lab type IDP for yourself. So I would recommend that. Just don't be too overwhelmed by all the content out there. Focus on GitOps, learn about it, then take an opinionated approach on that.
Got it. Love that, Dan. What problem are you trying to solve, and focus on that. Great stuff. All right. So where do you guys think all this is headed? Like the next 3 to 5 years, where is this all gonna end up? Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. What's the future going to bring? And today we talk a lot about cloud native tools and Kubernetes and IDPs and a lot of technology. As Dan said, it's easy to get overwhelmed. I think that our goal is for people to stop being overwhelmed. I think that our goal, meaning the community, is that in a few years from now, say 3 to 5, that application developers won't be saying the word Kubernetes, that the cloud native tools or maybe not even GitOps, that we should be freeing up developers' minds from those low level infrastructure things so that they can really just focus on their business applications or incorporating AI or ML into their business applications. And the infrastructure will be, and Kubernetes itself will be abstracted away. So I think if the community does it right, we'll take platform engineering out of the spotlight. It won't be a strategic initiative any longer for companies to do because it won't be their focus anymore. They'll be putting their focus in the right place, which is application developers. So that's what I think the future will bring is less talk about the nuts and bolts and more talk about business applications.
Got it. We'll all be on to the next problem. There'll be another. There's always another problem around the corner. Dan, your thoughts?
Well, I think back to what a person that we all have tremendous respect for, Ron Dupler, the former CEO of Blue Mantis, and now he's like the chairman. I remember when we first met him, and we were explaining to him what he did, what we were doing, and he said, this reminds me a lot of when the virtualization wave hit 20 years ago. Everybody wanted to go to VMs, but nobody knew how to do it. And he talked about how the success that he enjoyed was because they developed a golden path for their customers that would make that possible. And I think that's so true. And over time, we didn't talk so much about the hyperscaler. We would just say it's running in the cloud. We didn't say it's running in a VM. We just said it's running in the cloud. So to Chris's point, the terms Kubernetes and even GitOps, I think, will be as people realize, wow, Kubernetes is great, but it's missing a platform. And once the platforms are in place, and we sure hope we're at the tip of that spear, then it'll be focusing back to, like Chris said, back to the application. So that's, I see like from a trend from that perspective, from like a detailed technical perspective, the whole GitOps approach, I do think is here to stay. But I think what we'll see is it'll be called something else. Somebody's going to write an abstraction layer in front of that so people can do GitOps without knowing anything about Git, without knowing anything about all the Git commands and everything else. So
that's like kind of one thing there.
Yeah.
One thing there, Steve. Dan just gave us a little bit kind of like a history lesson with the virtualization wave that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. I just want to, before we leave, I want to thank Dan for writing this book. It is, for those of you who have been around long enough, it is a history lesson on what happened in platform engineering. It's not new. It's just changed radically in the last few years. And I think because history always repeats itself, it's a really nice reflection, this ebook that Dan wrote, to kind of put in your mind what has been happening with platform engineering, but how things are new, but they stay the same. Things are changing, but they stay the same. And I think that perspective helps. And thanks for writing the book, Dan.
Yeah, great job. Can I say old wine, new bottles, or is that sounds like an insult? It's no, it's great to draw upon your decades of experience, Dan, even though you're still a very young guy. So I guess we're running to the we've got a few minutes left here for Q&A. Are there any questions? Anyone want to ask a question, or you can email me or IM me or text me?